What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video we had something really cool happen. So we received so much support in our last gold making video that when I logged in this morning and I saw the auction house prices, I found myself a victim of opportunity, and I thought this is a fantastic chance to really get into it and can kind of continue with the success. So thank you to everybody who watched my last gold making video and the few people that commented. I know it's not a lot, nowhere near some of the medium to large YouTubers, but for it to be my most watched video really made the world to me. So without further ado, let's get into it. When I say I was a victim of opportunity, what we're going to be talking about today is the TIDESPRAY linen gold shuffle. Now, by definition, what a shuffle is where you can take an existing material or item in the game and transform it into something else using professions or whatever you may have at your disposal, into something else that can be crafted for a gold profit. When I logged in this morning and I went and checked the prices on TIDESPRAY linen, I saw that it was at 2 gold per, which for my server is actually pretty low. You typically won't find it lower than that with the recent auction house change. Now when people list things, they're not having to pre-search pricing, so it's just auto listing for whatever the lowest minimum value is and matching it. This means you're going to find a much more average pricing at the market values, where before the update, if people were lazy, you could sometimes find fantastic deals and just buy things at really low price and resell. That's actually much harder to do now with the most recent auction update. But the good news is, with everybody listing at the same price, if the prices are low, it's low for thousands and thousands of what you're looking for. For example, TIDESPRAY linen at 2 gold silver has 67,000 available right now, and that number's actually gone down in the last 15 minutes it took me to start setting everything up. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to log over to my bank alt, and we'll fast forward this in the video. And now that we have our money, we're going to go back here, find our TIDESPRAY again, and we are going to buy as much as humanly possible of this TIDESPRAY. So I actually just bought out the entire market of the 2 gold TIDESPRAY for 134,000 gold. Now, the reason we're doing this, and the only reason we're doing it, is because it's a crime of opportunity, if you will. As I talked before, if those prices aren't lower than 2 gold and 2 gold and 5 silver, you will not make a profit. You may break even. You may even make a couple hundred gold off thousands and thousands of TIDESPRAY, but you will not make a profit that's worth your time. At a flat 2 gold, even that 5 silver difference, when you're talking about hundreds, if not thousands, of an item, that leaves a big room for profit. If you compare it to a real world market, we have a very low cost input, small return, but high quantity type of business. A good example of that would be the price of gas. On average, the American is going to only actually give the business about 3 cents per gallon of profit. But due to how much of it's sold, it actually leads to a good return value. So we're kind of doing something along the same boat here. We're going to make tons of items for a small gain off each item. That small gain off each item nets to a big profit. Now, you're going to treat this like a gold per hour type thing, because crafting everything we're going to do in order to make the profit is going to take a long time. It may not take an hour, but it will typically take you, between crafting, opening, and selling, as long as you have the proper add-ons, anywhere between 30 and 45 minutes to do this. So before we jump right into things, there's a couple things you're going to need in order to make this efficient. So if you are running tailoring, which obviously you have to be in order for this to work, you're going to want the Cultier and Crafting enchant. And the reason you're going to do that, in order for this to be effective for your time invested, it can take, depending on bag space or mailbox ability, 1 crafting session because we bought 16,000 TIDESPRAY linen, you're going to make enough of them where your craft bar at the bottom down here could show times of an upwards of 20 minutes for a craft. And that is with the Cultiran crafting enchant. So without it, you're talking almost 2 hours to craft everything. And we don't want to do that. We want this to be valuable in terms of return and time invested. So you don't want to spend 2 hours for the profit we're going to make, or else it's not pointless, but it's an ineffective waste of time. Beyond that, you're going to want to make sure you are in your capital city, whether that is Zuldazar or that is in the Proudmoore Admiralty. Because this guy over here, Daniel Brineweaver, if you are exalted, is going to sell our nylon thread at the lowest cost of 48 silver. Now this is very important. I told you before how 5 silver can make a difference. If you're paying 60 silver instead of 48 for this nylon thread, you will not make a profit because you are going to have to buy an insane amount of these. Just like before, at the end of the video, I will have a table that will break down exactly how much was invested and how much profit was made, and we can kind of delve into that further in the future. But for now, we're going to go ahead and fast forward everything. I'm going to buy all the different nylon threads I'm going to need, and I'm going to begin the crafting process, and we'll kind of go through different steps from here. So we've just completed all of our crafting, and at this point, we're going to go over to the mailbox, and if you can see here, there's several pages of the pants. A lot of them made them into our inventory, but most of them are actually going to be in our mailbox. Now this is going to save you a good amount of time, because when you're doing the mass crafts, you're not constantly stopping to sell them. So after we sell what's in our inventory, if we can, we're going to try and go through and pick out our remaining TIDESPRAY linen, rather than actually getting the pants from our mailbox. The reason being, you want to get all the crafting part done and just sell all of them. So in the description below, I'm going to have the macro I use to buy my nylon thread, as well as any add-ons I might use. For example, I have an auto sell add-on that I have set. So once I'm in here, I just click sell items, and it's actually going to sell all my pants, as well as give me an accurate calculation of how much whatever is my inventory sold for. Now this is really important if you're like me and you like to actually track what you're doing and how much gold you're making per sell. So on that particular batch, we can see down here my auto seller calculated at 4,989 gold for that particular rotation. So let's go back to our mailbox. So obviously it took a lot of time in order to do everything. I kind of fast forwarded through it. So we are completed. We've actually done our TIDESPRAY pant gold shuffle. And the best part about this, and kind of the reason I fast forward, during the crafting, opening, and selling of all the items, I quite literally sat on YouTube and Twitter doing absolutely nothing. So that's kind of the whole point of this video, is if you are have real world things going on, or something better you could be doing with your time, or you're just flat out not really in the mood to actually go out and put forth the effort to farm, I watched YouTube videos and made a pretty hefty sum of gold. So a couple things I want to break down before I get into it. Once you're done crafting everything, it is relatively RNG on the gold you're going to make. We're gonna kind of explain that on the right side of your screen. You're going to see the flow chart I put together. In this chart, it's going to go over everything I did, and the profits that came about from it. So we'll go ahead and pull that up now. So it's important to understand the actual true profits of this. So the numbers here are accurate to within a couple silver. I do not include copper. I don't have that kind of time to actually do those calculations, especially because the whole point of this is to be as passive as possible for gold game. So our starting gold was 4,219 and 29 silver. The investments that we had were the TIDESPRAY linen, the nylon thread, and our time physically spent doing things. Now, you're going to see a longer time if you compare my in-game clock. It is because I was editing different parts of the video and putting this list together, but actual time spent doing everything in-game and active was 1 hour and 23 minutes. We bought 67,637 TIDESPRAY linen for 135,274 gold. In order to craft the pants, we had to buy 39,787 nylon thread, and that totaled 19,097 gold and 50 silver. Our items sold and our gold gained were 3,979 TIDESPRAY linen pants at approximately a value of 179,000 gold or 179,055 gold. Now our net profit would be 179,055 gold minus 19,097 gold and 50 silver, for a profit of 159,957 gold and 50 silver. Now there is RNG on the blue pants procs. This can cause anywhere from a 6,000 to 8,000 gold variance. Obviously this will change depending on how much of an investment you made. Now, in order to show this, we ended up totaling 150,323 gold. There was actually 2,000 more gold, but I found a item on the auction house at a very low price, and I had to buy that up before one of the auto buyers bought it up, and this was the flask of Endless Fathoms. I did have to stock up on those, so I apologize, but it was originally 152,323, so I had about a 6,000 to 7,000 gold difference because I was not lucky on my procs. But of our starting gold at 4,219, we have actually made about a 6,000 gold profit. That's very good. Now, it was closer to 8,000 before I bought the flasks, so for 1 hour and 23 minutes, if we bring up a calculator and we divide that time all together, it would be 6,504 gold and 6 silver. This is actually very similar to the results we got in Freehold. So pending you have the money, this can be a very good gold per hour investment. And it can only get better based on the current market value of TIDESPRAY linen as well as your server. So I bought all of my TIDESPRAY linen at an even 2 gold per, meaning any lower than this, you're only going to see a profit gain per hour dramatically. Some things to take note for, and we're going to list these off on the right hand side. Starting, this is a crime of opportunity, meaning there will not always be a time where you go to the auction house and find them at a reasonable value. This value for time invested would not be worth it for anything more expensive than 2 gold and 2 silver per TIDESPRAY linen. It can be profitable up until 2 gold 4 silver or 2 gold 5 silver, depending on your lucky blue procs. But at that point, for the time you're investing, you're looking at such a small profit increase, your gold per hour could drop down to as low as anywhere from 1 to 3,000, which at that point it is not worth the investment. Anything below what I've showed you is a no-brainer. If you have a tailor and you find this TIDESPRAY linen in quantity, in bulk, you should buy it if you see it anything lower than 2 and do this farm. It is free, passive money. You can watch YouTube videos and watch the gold roll into your bag. Part number 2. This is not going to be for fresh starting players. Like with most things in the world, it takes money to make money. I invested 135,000 gold, which may not be a large sum of money in today's current market with, just the saturation and inflation, but it is still a decent sum. You have to have a lot of money to invest in order to buy in quantity because your time is valuable. And small returns of 500 and 600 gold here with lesser amounts, anywhere between 10 to 15,000, is not going to be worth your time. And your time is money. It's something you can possibly do after. Because we bought up such a large share of the market, almost 70,000 TIDESPRAY,
you've effectively raised the minimum value of TIDESPRAY linen on your server. So if we look at here, we've effectively raised the value, dramatically actually. So you may see that it's only a 1 silver, but that is only for 6,007 units of TIDESPRAY. Our next closest is at 2 gold and 2 silver for 24,000. None of these amounts are anywhere close to the almost 70,000 we bought originally, with the actual closest comparison being 2 gold and 4 silver at 83,000, basically 84,000 units. Now what you can do with this, and the caveat being if you want to, because you bought up a large market share, you have now created a demand for other players. What I mean by that is, because there is not an oversaturation on the market anymore due to the large purchase, if you were to do a freehold run, for example, from my previous video, and you get to the end and you don't feel like crafting your TIDESPRAY pants, you can just put that right up on the auction house and go watch YouTube videos and it will sell. Because you bought out such a large share, there's going to be demand now for other players to buy, and it's going to be at a healthy profit because you've raised the market value by buying the lowest cost shares and buying them en masse. I wouldn't recommend doing this because you will see a small profit loss as opposed to just crafting your TIDESPRAY pants at the end of a run. But if you so feel inclined, you can now put them on the auction house and they will sell, because people are going to have to buy them, and you've effectively bought out all of the cheapest auctions. The next part in the video we're going to go over, and we're going to keep it very short and sweet, are the things you'll need to make this worth your time. This includes the add-on I used, my buy macro, and my enchant. So the first thing listed on the right, you're going to see the enchant of Kultiran crafting. I cannot express how important this is. On average, to make 800 TIDESPRAY pants, it's about a 14-minute craft time. Without this enchant, you physically could not make this worth your time. We'd be talking 2 to 3 hours. And if we divide that by our 6,500 gold per hour, now into divided by 3, you're talking at anywhere from 2,000 to 2,500 per hour. And we both know you could spend time on better things. The next thing you're going to need is going to be my buying macro for the nylon thread, because you can only buy it in stacks of 200, and rather than just typing it out, it'd be a lot easier to click a button and buy en masse. The third thing you're going to have to get is going to be your auto sell add-on, because when you're talking about vendoring 100 to 120 TIDESPRAY pants at a time, you really don't want to have to go through and click all that. I use an add-on called Auto Seller. It's very simple. I'll have the actual description and where to find it below. But what it looks like is right here in the center of my screen. Click Sell Green, Sell Blue. Make sure there is nothing in your bags that you don't accidentally want to sell. And then every time you open up your vendor window, bam, click Sell Items, and it will take anywhere from 10 to 15 seconds, and it will sell en masse everything, as well as give you a total down here in the corner. One thing to note, as far as the variance goes, on average, I sold about 100 TIDESPRAY linen per crafting session and opening of the mailbox. So if I crafted 800, I would typically sell them at about 100 each time in my bags, and depending on Blue Procs, this would net me a guaranteed minimum of 4,000 gold, with an upwards closer to 4,900. So per 100 pants, you're going to average about 4,000 to 5,000 gold. The final thing I would recommend is any type of mount that has a vendor on it. This sounds like a little bit of a first world problem and a little bit prissy, but it's very easy to just stand at the mailbox, open your mail, and then click your vendor at your mount. This is going to save you a little bit of time and just make things a little bit more efficient. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. It really does help. Anything you think I could have done better, please let me know that as well. Healthy criticism helps us all grow. Hope you guys enjoy your day.